everybody. Sorry about the long gap between videos, but blame it on the NHL playoffs because I absolutely could not record in my house because there was too much shouting and screaming all the time at various hockey teams. So, yeah, wish the Oilers would have won, but hey, there's always next year. And by the way, my YouTube friends, thank you so much for being so nice and not judgmental about my appearance, because I have basically stopped doing TikTok because I have gotten so many mean comments about my skin, and I don't want to listen to that, and I don't want to hear about that. So I appreciate everybody on YouTube being not just like a drive-by turd. I really appreciate that. Do you know that they made water bottle things for the Sonic ocean water? So my mouth will be getting, increasingly blue throughout the video. By the way, I did not realize how passionate so many of you are about sheep. I think that's neat. Thank you for all the sheep facts. That really, I was reading the comments and I know I haven't responded to them, but the sheep facts were primo. After the end of chapter 29, oh boy! We are moving into chapter 30. Alesia is about to audition for the Royal College of Music, and Maxim is there with her. Her audition is in 40 minutes. They're already there. He's like, do you want me to stay? She's like, no, you have work to do. I assume since she is going to be doing this very important life-altering thing by auditioning that we will now go see Maxim at work. Let's find out. After Alesia is led to a warm-up room, we absolutely do go with Maxim. We get in the car with him. He's on the way to the office, and he's getting a text. He thinks it might be from Alesia. You realize, good sir, that she is at a life-changing audition, a potentially life-changing audition. You think she's texting you when you just walked out the door? It's another text from Carolyn. She sent me a few over the last few days, begging for feedback on her designs. For heaven's sake, we're meeting later this morning. I didn't know she was professionally so needy. She isn't professionally needy. She's trying to get into your pants. That's the whole point. She is the evil blonde, evil spelled with an O, of this piece, right? She is the evil blonde. But she's designing your house. Like, she's gonna have to ask you questions and want feedback about what it looks like and if you like it. That's part of working with an interior designer. My eyes stray to the battered briefcase beside me on the seat. Within it are my notes from our meeting with Jem Gladwell, which I want to share with Oliver, and also Kit's journal. Its mere existence searing a hole in my conscience and nagging me. Should I read it? Fuck. Maybe I should burn it. Yeah, actually, I think that'd be great. I think that you should burn it, because we're not all that interested in the mystery anyway, and then the book can be over, and nothing will, it will not be cleared up. None of the questions that we had will be answered, but that's okay, because we don't care. We just, it's a boring mystery. You know what's not a boring mystery? I was on retreat last week. That's another reason why there haven't been videos in a minute, is I went away on my week-long annual retreat. But when I was there, one night, I saw that, like, I had brushed my teeth. My toothbrush and my toothpaste were on the sink, and I brushed my teeth. I know I brushed my teeth because I had eaten a lot of sugar, and I had that sugary feeling. So I brushed my teeth, and then the next morning I got up, and my toothbrush and toothpaste were gone. They vanished. That's an interesting mystery. I would read a book on what happened to my toothbrush and toothpaste, but I'm not that interested in whatever is in Kit's fucking journal. We actually do see Alessia's audition. I honestly thought that we would skip it, considering the fact that she met this long-lost relative and he, has the same condition as she does, and they were going to play piano together, and it was going to be, again, life-changing, and instead we saw what Maxim was doing while that was happening. I expected that we were going to come back from Maxim being at work or texting with Carolyn, and we were going to come back and Alesia is leaving the audition, but the audition's actually in here. When she gives them her music, someone notices that it's like a different piece by a composer that they don't recognize. She tells him that it's like an Albanian composer. I'm not going to try to pronounce the name, but I know that this was something that, was probably Googled to find, Albanian composers. And I'm sure that the author was shocked when the music that came back actually was like piano music, and it wasn't like, you know, some crude lute type instrument from the Middle Ages. Alesia is worried that because they stopped her that she did bad and that they hated it. And hey, guess what? That is, whenever somebody stops you during an audition, it doesn't matter if you get the part, you still think back on that audition and you go, what did I do wrong that they stopped me? You might not have done anything wrong. She starts playing this piece from the 37th bar. She sees orange and red, and we see a section break and Oliver. We are going back to the office with Maxim, and we are learning about how Michael wants to get regenerative farming off the ground. Like, keeping in mind that this is breaking up a scene of Alesia doing this life-changing, nerve-wracking thing that should be exciting, okay? She's already gone and warmed up, and she's gone through all of this whole thing, and then that was interrupted by Maxim getting a text from his sister-in-law. And then we go back to the audition, and she's played a few pieces, and now she's playing this other piece. But then we go back to the office, because while this huge, important thing, this thing that the book has been building up to is happening, this is what we get to experience. Well, I think Kit missed a trick. I'm excited about it. Our next move is to galvanize the tenants at Angwin and Chalk. Is it Chalk? Is that how you'd say it? Tyak? I'm gonna say Chalk. Gladwell's up for it, and we should talk in more depth about purchasing or leasing some capital equipment. It's going to be pricey. We can budget for it. I'll talk to each of the estate managers and get a date in. You wanted to know about regenerative farming, right? Because it just recently became so important to Maxim, like 2 chapters ago. We have to hear about how they need to put up capital to buy this stuff. That's how important it is, but we're going to go ahead and just skip right past. We're just going to fly right past this audition. We don't need to stay there. We don't need to experience the whole thing in one piece. It needs to be split up so that we can go see the most boring shit possible happening in another location. I would rather the whole chapter just be her audition. That is the thing. I was writing something. I'm playing around because, you know me, when I see authors doing something and I can't understand for the life of me why they're doing it, I try to do it myself, right? Just to see what's going on. So I tried to do an alternating POV thing, not like this chapter in one POV, this chapter in one POV. Like, here's a few paragraphs in this POV. Here's a few chapters in this POV. Now we're going to go back. Now we're going back and forth. And what I found myself doing was jumping to the person, surprise, surprise, who was the most invested at the moment or had the most interesting things going on in that POV. In a conversation where someone's buying a coffee, I did not focus on the person making the coffee. I focused on the person having the conversation. Then when the person making the coffee decided to say something or speak up, I went into their POV because the thing that they had to say was something that the reader didn't want to miss, and that you didn't want to miss the backstory. And I do not understand how. I mean, for one thing, reading this book makes me feel like the author was bored while writing it. And that could be why. Because I did not feel bored when I was writing that way. I have occasionally felt bored writing my own stuff when I've stayed in one POV the whole time. Let me tell you, the number of times I've been like, oh my god, Sophie, I don't care what you're wearing! Sometimes that happens. Every book you get a little bored, right? Every book there's going to be a time when you get a little bit bored of what you're reading or writing. But this book reads like she's been bored the whole goddamn time because it's boring me. And all she had to do was simply stick in the POV of the person that has the most exciting thing happening. But if something exciting happens, she races away from it straight to the office with Maxim. And I don't know if that's like some self-conscious thing that she's done because she was like so roundly criticized for 50 Shades of Grey for the fact that Christian in 50 Shades of Grey, he never seemed to work. He never seemed to go anywhere. Nobody seemed to know what his job was. So if this is like her trying to correct that deficit, you can't fix what was wrong with this series by doing another series and then, like, just creating new problems because you're so desperately trying to fix what people said about the series that you wrote before. And the same thing happens here with this scene where he runs into Oliver. They have the conversation about regenerative farming and how he needs to buy all of this shit to get this pricey endeavor going for this regenerative farming. And then we get down to, like, the end of this little section, and he thinks about how he has to call Letitia with news about the news that the sergeant told him about the traffickers or whatever and finding the passport, right? So he has this important plot point coming up. The regenerative farming is not a plot point. It hasn't been, it won't be, it's just background noise. So he's about to do something that affects the main plot, and we just move away from it. We just don't see it. He thinks, I have to call her. And then we go back to Alesia. We go back into Alessia's POV, and they're interviewing her now. They're asking her why she wants to study there, and she's like, I need to have, you know, I need to develop my technique and my voice and the playing, and I need to, you know, learn stuff because I want to play all over the world someday. And then she, like, is thinking to herself, like, yeah, I don't want to tell them it's because I need a visa, right? Alesia has no idea if it went well, but she's relieved it's over. She knows she played well, but was it good enough? It doesn't matter. You are like the world's most famous countess. You are every inch a countess. You're already in. Because they know that your husband has money, and you're a countess. So, and you're famous now, all over England and all over the world, because you're a countess. So, you're getting in. I don't know what to tell you. I don't even know why they bothered to audition you. It was a formality. And because she's feeling so, like, unsure and uncertain of things, she calls her great-uncle, and he asks, like, who auditioned her, and she tells him, and he's like, oh, you'll do fine, and have you told your mother? And we hear that he's been talking to her mother, and then they hang up, and she calls her mother, and we don't see that conversation. We don't see her mother reacting to, like, her auditioning for this dream thing. We get a few lines of this very, like, you know, important, allegedly, side character of the uncle who just showed up out of nowhere, and now she calls him, and he's like, oh, you'll do fine. And that's really all we get. We don't see her talking about any of her fears or anything like that with her mother. It's just Alesia made a phone call. Here is what happened in the phone call. Now she is going to make another phone call. We go back to the office, and Caroline is there with her, like, design ideas. At my conference table, Carolyn talks Oliver and me through her mood boards and designs, and it's clear she's put a great deal of thought into her process. No shit! It's her job, dick brain. Some people actually do their jobs. Some people don't just, like, you know, shit around and be like, I think I'm gonna get into regenerative farming this week. And also, I'm gonna be a lamb obstetrician. And I'm gonna teach somebody how to drive, so I'm a driver's ed instructor now. Like, other people, you know, I'm gonna DJ. Other people take their job seriously, Maxim. I don't know what to tell you. I cannot believe I have had, like, several weeks off from this book, and I am still as annoyed with Maxim the second I sit down. For whatever reason, Oliver gets up and leaves the meeting, and immediately it starts talking about personal stuff. Caroline watches him go with a frown. She turns back to me. So, how was Cornwall? How did Alesia fit in? Great, thanks. It was cool to be back. Alesia was and is amazing, helping with lambing. Really? Carol frowns. Ignoring her reaction, I continue, yes, she knew exactly what to do. In fact, she wants to return to Cornwall as soon as possible. I think she's more comfortable at the Hall. Why wouldn't she be? She's waited on hand and foot, and it's very rural. Actually, she's not waited on hand and foot, I snap. And what do you mean by that? Maybe she means the fact that somebody, like, literally does wait on you people hand and foot. Like, somebody walks in and brings your breakfast right into your bedroom. Like, would you like a cup of tea? I will go and get the tea. Yeah, they're waited on hand and what the fuck was I just reading? He tells her that he's gonna sell Kit's car collection. Are there any that she wants to keep? She's like, nope, that was Kit's thing, not mine. And then she says, "I should move out of the Countess's rooms," she adds, a little sadly. "There's no hurry. We've not moved from my room." "Oh," she raises her eyebrows. "See, Alessia's not the mercenary little social climbing point scorer you think, Caro." Well, what was... Carolyn stayed in those rooms. Like, what? Like, she's the mercenary little point scorer? No, like, I gotta move out of the Countess's rooms. Like, yeah, you better. I have a cat. This is my... Look at... This is my cat. Dracula, say hi. Hi! I'm gonna hold you like a baby. I'm gonna hold him like a baby. Oh my god. Oh my god, I look like Aunt Gail from Bob's Burgers. Oh. My cats were right about you. He was just sitting there on somebody's porch in the sunlight. It was so sad. I am going to try not to scream when I read this. He tells her that Alesia is auditioning for all of these different conservatories. And Caroline is like, all of them? Yes, she's talented, and she needs to be offered a place so I can secure her a visa. Otherwise, she'll have to return to Albania for a month or so, and neither of us want that. Carolyn rolls her eyes. For heaven's sake, it's not like she's going to be spooning off the state. Okay. Okay. Immigrants. Totally all right, as long as they're not spooning off the state. You ever just read a book and know how the author votes? Unfortunately, as she grabs her stuff to leave, she sees that Maxim has Kit's journal on his desk. It's like out on the desk in the open. Here's what bothers me about this, is he like can't stand to look at it. He's kept it in his bag, whatever, but since it needs to be on the desk for this scene, it's on the desk out in the open. I don't know. But that's like such a minor thing to be wrong with this book that I can't even fault it. I can't even be like, oh, that's sloppy writing. That's blah, blah, blah. I can't, because it's like the least sloppy part of this book. She pales instantly, her cheeks ashen. You found it, she says in a small voice that speaks volumes. Yes, it was in a locked drawer in Kit's desk at the hall. She turns her face to mine, her eyes wide and fearful, and growing larger and darker as the seconds tick by, and we gaze at each other as the air is slowly sucked from the room by the weight of this small battered leather tome, by the weight of Kit's final written word. She is freaked out. She's like, tell me what you read, say something. He says he only read the last entry. She's like, what did it say? And then there's a knock at the door, and Oliver brings Alesia inside. My spirits soar as she walks into the room. My wife is the cavalry, saving me from a beyond awkward conversation. Or saving all of us from, like, a plot point. We've got 10% left in this book. There's going to be a sequel. There's going to be a fucking sequel to this fucking book. I haven't mentioned Kit's last written words to Alesia, partly because it's none of my business, let alone my wife's, and partly because I don't know what she'd think of me invading Kit's privacy, but mainly because Alessia's opinion of Caroline is tentative at best. I've worked that out for myself, and I don't want to damage it any further. You didn't work it out for yourself. You didn't. You didn't put that together yourself. You had to brush it off constantly and be like, oh, don't worry about all the women I've boned down with. And then she finds out before the wedding that you boned down with the sister-in-law. Like, you didn't figure it out because you kept dismissing it like it was no big deal. And here's another thing. Like, this whole book, we've been like, oh, I have to find the answers. Maybe Kit's diary will give me the answers. I'm going to find Kit's journal and get the answers that I want. Now he has the journal. He can get the answers. And he's like, oh, it's none of my business. It's none of my business. I'm just gonna, don't worry about it. It's none of my business. Then why have we heard all this shit about the journal? Why have we heard about all of these burning questions that Maxim has? And now, when the answer is right there on his fucking desk, it's not my business. Maxim's mother is talking to people. She's just not talking to Maxim. She called Caroline and she was like, let's put this memorial off until the autumn. And Caroline's like, no, I don't want to do that because, you know, I need some closure here. Her lips clamped together as if containing her grief. And I have to remember that Kit found out Caro was unfaithful because she sure puts on a good show of the grieving widow. You can cheat on somebody and still give a shit when they die. Astounding, I know. Astounding that people can have complicated lives. You can have all sorts of problems with somebody, and when they die, you have grief. Like, the emotional immaturity of this book, and basically everything written by this author, is astounding to me. She's not faking being sad. And plus, we don't know that she cheated. Like, he's saying he discovered that she cheated, except for the big mystery when he read the last thing was she unfaithful? Because at first my mother, now my wife. We don't know if he was referring to the cheating at that point. Maxim's just assuming that he's referring to the cheating. So now it's, she definitely cheated? Like, I feel like so many of Maxim's problems and dramas could be solved by him not just deciding what the facts are. He has this notebook. He could look and confirm that she cheated, but he's just deciding that it happened. Like, all of this man's problems are based entirely on the fact that he won't seek out confirmation for anything. He just goes, well, I think it's this, and I'm the smartest person in the world, obviously, because I'm a DJ / photographer / model / driver's ed instructor / lamb obstetrician. Alesia asks Caroline, like, so is Rowena in London right now? Is that what's happening? And Rowena is in London. Alesia suggests to Caroline, like, hey, you should talk to her. You should see her and talk to her and tell her sooner's better for this memorial. Autumn doesn't work for me. Caroline is like, oh, well, I'm having dinner with her tonight. You should come over. And Alesia says, we'd like that very much, Alesia says without hesitation, taking hold of my hand so I can't object. What? And that's the chapter hook. The chapter hook is that they are going to go have dinner, and Maxim no longer cares, apparently, about this big mystery that we have been hearing about nonstop. I don't know. Honestly, the best part about this chapter was showing you my cat. That's it. If for some reason you enjoy hearing about this book, like, comment, subscribe, tell people about it. Say, go look at this person slowly lose any faith in the written word that she may have had when she started. Go and bring them hither. Don't forget, over on the Patreon, I have just posted the first part of the Icebreaker series, where I am doing videos about the book Icebreaker, which was a big TikTok hit that my daughter hated. If you go over to my Patreon, link in the description, you can sign up for the $1 tier. $1 a month will get you 1, maybe 2 videos about this book, about Icebreaker, and anything more. There's more perks after that. I mean, you could sign up for the Fablemere tier, which is $3, and then every Tuesday and Thursday you get a new chapter of my Fablemere series, which the Vampires Willing Captive just wrapped up a few weeks ago, and we are now on The Magician's Reluctant Assistant. So, if you would like to read my Fablemere series, that's over there too. But I talked your ear off enough, and I need to go have a brain cleanser. Or a brain eraser, or that Eternal Sunshine machine, or a lobotomy. Something along those lines. Just anything that could graphically damage the part of my brain that reads. That's what I need right now. So, stay safe, and I will catch you on the flip side.